freedom doesn't need to be fight. If we fight for freedom, that's some freedom given by an authority. The really real, authentic freedom comes from our mind. We don't need to fight for that. We just need to shift our mindset. In the last few years, it was like a challenge for humanity to shake off our fear. And I do see more and more people awaken from that experience. When they see how the media manipulate us, how the government is treating their people, then they start to wake up. I believe they must go through those speed bumps in order to see that's not the truth.
Welcome to the Staying Free podcast. In this episode, I spoke with Sean Yuen. Sean is a registered Chinese medicine practitioner and natural therapist specializing in acupuncture and herbal medicine. He is also a registered yoga teacher and has worked all over the world, including Hong Kong, India, Malta, Brazil, and Mexico, combining traditional Chinese medicine with ancient plant medicine and shamanic traditions. So I met Sean earlier in the year in Puerto Vallarta after hearing that his holistic clinic was one of the ones in the area which accepted Bitcoin. And when I heard about this, I decided that would be the place I'd go because I always like to support local businesses accepting Bitcoin. So I went over there and had my acupuncture treatment. And during that time, I got talking to Sean about his experiences and his travels and his perspectives on life and philosophy. And I just thought that he was a really, really interesting guy and had a lot of very interesting ideas worth sharing. So I decided that at some point I was going to have a conversation with him for the podcast. So I actually went into his clinic to have this conversation, and I had recorded this whole thing with video. But as always seems to be the case when I try to do these conversations in person, I had some technical difficulties, and it turned out that one of the cameras didn't work. So unfortunately, that also meant that I lost the main microphone, which was feeding into that one. However, I really did not want to lose this conversation, so I kind of went to town on trying to recover it. And with the help of a few AI tools, I actually managed to recover the audio for this conversation quite well. So it's not quite up to the audio standards which I would hope for, but it's not bad. And although the video didn't work out in the end, I'm really glad that I'm able to at least bring you this conversation as an audio episode. All right, as always, if you enjoy the episode, make sure you give it a like and a share on social media. If you're enjoying the podcast so far, make sure you give it a 5-star rating in whichever podcast app you're using. If you're new here, then welcome. Do give the pod a subscribe for future episodes. Please consider supporting my work. You can do this in several ways. You can use the link below to give me a donation on Buy Me a Coffee. You can also give Bitcoin tips there as well, both on-chain and via the Lightning Network. And remember, you can now support the show and help me grow by listening on Fountain app. That's available on both iOS and Android. You can share your thoughts on this episode or simply say thanks by sending some sats with a comment. Getting started is super easy. All you need to do is top up your Fountain wallet with a bank card or using the Lightning Network. And you can also earn sats just by listening on Fountain and being an active member of the community. So you can use my code in the description to start using Fountain today. Just a quick thanks to those who supported me in the last episode. PS boosted 5,000 sats, saying, "Another banger, only been listening for 2 episodes and I'm extremely grateful for finding your show. Thank you for this great content." Thank you, PS. And I got a nice little comment as well from someone with the username 404, who boosted 100 sats, saying, "Great show, the title says it all, keep it up." Thank you for those comments, keep them coming, and as always, any way that you're able to support the show is hugely appreciated. All right, on to the episode.
Okay, Feng, welcome to my podcast, and thank you for welcoming me into your holistic clinic.
Thank you.
So, yeah, obviously, just for a bit of background for my listeners as to like how we met, I came in here for like an acupuncture session, not knowing at that point that you did a lot in the realm of plant medicine. And plant medicine is something I've been talking about more and more on my podcasts. And I definitely think that plant medicine ties in a lot to freedom and the idea, especially of like spiritual freedom. It seems to be a bit of a revival in the area of things like plant medicine. I think people, in the absence of the kind of traditional institutions doing their job, people are turning to alternative paths. And I think that plant medicine is like a really key one. So before we dive into all that stuff, do you want to just give my listeners a bit of an introduction as to yourself?
Right, sure. My name is Feng, and in Chinese, it means the wind. So I connect with the wind, connect with like everything just flow since my childhood. And I believe that when I grew up, I would just fly in different parts of the world. So I left. I was born in Hong Kong. Most of my family are still in Hong Kong. But I left Hong Kong in 2011 to travel around the world. So I spent like 10 years traveling around the world. My background is a Chinese medicine doctor. I studied Chinese medicine in the university, and it really gave me a lot of tools to use when I was traveling. I can just bring my needles, bring my cupping cups and massage oil, and I do a lot of healing whenever I go. And when I was in India, I learned about yoga, and I became a yoga teacher in 2014. And I was teaching yoga for some time. And in 2016, I came across plant medicine. My first 4 ayahuasca ceremony was just open up my whole mind and body to connect with the bigger self. And since then, my life changed completely. And I was just connected to the abundance of the universe, and I no longer worry about too much about how can I survive, how can I earn money. I would just connect with the abundant source of the universe, and it just provide me what I need. And then I went into the Amazon jungle to find my teachers a few years back, and that also made me realize that, wow, is plant medicine or psychedelic is not just about the feeling, but it's about a lot about connecting with your ancestor, connecting with your past lives, connecting with the aliens, the animal spirits, the plant spirits. And with that period of time when I studied with my teachers, she taught me a lot about these things, and and also how to cultivate the medicine, how to respect the medicine, how to sing the song, how to lead the ceremony. And when I come to Mexico, I start to implement all of my knowledge, also with my healing backgrounds, to put my healing modalities all together into a more holistic and authentic healing.
Okay, nice. So it sounds like this all started for you after you'd already started traveling. Were you already into plant medicine before you started traveling?
Absolutely not. When I was in Hong Kong still, or the first 5 years of my travel, I was still seeing plant medicine as drugs to get high, because I saw people doing that. And I was not called to do that at that moment. And when the time comes in 2016, I start to realize that, wow, it's not just about getting high or the sensations. It's more. It made me realize there are more depth about that.
Okay. So when you were kind of like growing up and stuff, were you always different in that sense, or was it not until you actually went traveling that your mind was expanded into these areas? Were you always a bit of like I guess like stood out amongst your like friends and family?
Yeah, I was always the outcast. Although I do very well in school, but I always don't feel like I belongs to Hong Kong. It's a really big cities, and all the people are just working, and non-stop working, workaholics. Well, my parents are workaholics, all my friends are. And I don't see myself living forever in that city. I remember I asked my parents when I was really young, and I said, can we actually not work and we still live happily? And they don't know how to answer me. And also in Chinese mentality, we need to work. We need to work, keep working, and keep studying. But then when I saw my professor in the university, they was just like working 20 hours a day and doing all this paperwork and research in order to keep their title. And then I asked myself, even though I have the opportunity to become a professor, to study postgrad, I asked myself, do I really want that life? it's a very clear no. When I ask my heart, it's like, no way that I'm just doing or working for somebody else. So I decided to just quit everything in 2011 and start travel.
How did you get the kind of courage to do that? Because I find that tapping into that innate thing of saying, no, I'm going to make the decision on my own, outside of what everyone's telling me. I'm going to go against the grain. It takes like quite a lot of courage, and normally you have to do a lot of inner work before you even get to that point. Is that inner work that you felt like you'd already done, or was it just a very intuitive thing for you?
Well, at that moment, more than 10 years ago, I felt like I had nothing to lose. I was just like a 20-something-year-old man, and I didn't have family. My job was, my career was just starting, and I don't have a very big responsibility to my family. So it gave me the opportunity to just explore. And my family did provide me that foundation to let me and my brothers explore. And I feel very grateful for that. And also, more than 10 years ago, not those terms of inner work or self-realization was not that popular. But I think my courage came from my soul. I would just want to get out from this matrix and explore and develop myself as a better individual, a better spirits to serve the world. I know that from my heart, even when I was like 3 years old, my grandfather asked me, what do I want to do in my life or when I grow up? And I said, I want to be a doctor. And then I pursued my career to become a doctor. And now when I think back, I felt like it's something that inherit from my past lives. And I feel of my spiritual friends also told me that I was a healer for several lifetimes. So I'm just carrying on doing this, what I'm good at. And that also and Chinese medicine actually also give me a flexibility to do wherever I go. And I'm really also deeply grateful for this medicine as well.
So with Chinese medicine, I only really know of Chinese medicine from a Western perspective of traveling, and it's something that I generally seek out because I've had good successes with it. In China, is that the prevailing form of medicine, or is it kind of like more of an ancient form of medicine which still exists to some extent? Like, how popular is it in China right now?
Well, nowadays they integrate Chinese medicine, traditional medicine, and the modern medicine in a hospital. Whichever hospital you find in China, you can find both of them. And during my practical year in Guangzhou, I saw the benefit of complementing these two medicine together. That, for example, people are going for a surgery, removing part of their organs, and then right after they finished the surgery, the doctor gave them Chinese herbal medicine for them to recover faster. And I saw the effect that really works, and the patient doesn't need to suffer that much long time after the surgery, and they recover very, very quick. So I do think that these two medicine, the traditional and the modern medicine, both have their own benefits and advantage, and that's why even though I'm practicing traditional medicine, but when my patient really needs surgery, I would suggest them not to ignore all the modern medicine. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Why do you think that Chinese medicine is not more popular in the world? Like, if it's so successful, and I know I've had personal successes, and I know a lot of people who have as well. And it seems like, it's just something that happens on the fringes, especially in the West. But everyone seems to know someone who's had successes with it, but it's just not practiced. It's kind of frowned upon, I guess, like in the mainstream. How has it come to that? If it has success and that it's successful, like, how has it come to the point where people just dismiss it?
In China, it's actually quite popular. There are a lot of people using it because of the mentality of using these natural ways of healing. existed 5,000 years, why is not existing? Why is not working now? I believe it's the mentality of the people change. They are not. They want their problems to be solved immediately, but natural medicine takes time to heal, and we are tackling the cause of the problem of the sickness. So it takes time to heal that part of the body, to make the blood flow again, or to reduce the dampness, or to implement more blood into the body. And those core problems, it takes a week, for example, or even more to replenish or to recover. So for modern people, they might think that it's too slow or it's not effective, and they will just take a pill, and then immediately after a few hours, their symptoms gone. So I think it's based on the mentality of the people. They change, so it become less popular. But nowadays, after the pandemics, actually, more and more people are searching for natural medicine and Chinese medicine. I heard my friends in Hong Kong told me about, after the pandemics, they got even more clients because they realized the importance of making themselves healthy so that they won't get sick. Yeah. So we also have a terms called preventive medicine. So people come to the clinic is not because they are sick, but because they want to be healthier. So we check what qi or blood or yin or yang, what are they lacking, and then we supplement them so it makes them a stronger being, so that they were not getting sick that easily.
What do you mean by yin and yang?
Yin deficiency or yang deficiency.
Can you go into that a bit more?
So in a healthy body, yin and yang are balanced. But if we lost too much liquid or blood, the yin side, yin is the liquid side, or the something that is visible in our body, and yang are the energy. So when we are losing too much sweat or blood, then the yin energy become lower, and that's yin deficiency. So when that's the case, then we need to supply more yin energy. Or when people don't get enough sleep, they also get yin deficiency, because nighttime is yin. And yang is the energy of the body. When the person exhausts himself too much, then he become lack of qi, and for longer time, if he's lacking of qi for more than like a few months, then the yang energy also become low, and they will get cold easily, or they start to have pain over the body, and that's yang deficiency. So in that case, then we will need to supply more yang.
And how do you supply more? What does that come in the form of?
By acupuncture, by herbal medicine, or by improving their lifestyles. There are many ways.
So people who are overworked, they're the kind of people who would benefit from acupuncture.
Yeah, of course.
That seems to make inherent sense, because you see so many people in the West who seem to have huge benefits from it. I mean, it's kind of a thing like in London, when I was living in London, like a lot of people who are kind of like these business people types, like really like all the time networking and doing business and stuff. And there seems to be a culture as well that people also being into things like acupuncture. That's actually how I first found out. It was like a friend of mine, well, not found out that I knew about it, but especially about the benefits of it. It's like a friend of my mum who is definitely a very, very like businesswoman, like always working type thing. And she swore by it. She said, like, acupuncture, she's like, how to cure? She was like, I've not seen anything it can't cure yet. and that was what kind of first got me interested in it. So it makes a lot of sense that those people would benefit.
Yeah, because I also believe that when they realize that they cannot just take a pill and get everything fixed, then they will start to look into the source of the problem. And acupuncture and all the other kinds of natural medicine actually tackle the source of the problem and make the person more balanced.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I'd love to know more about this stuff, but it's just never, there's not really enough time to go into it all in a podcast. But one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you specifically, and one of the reasons I found you so interesting, is because you're doing obviously like Chinese medicine, but you've also kind of paired it with plant medicine, which I'm assuming you've learned more from like the Americas, more from when you spent time in the Amazon and stuff.
Yeah.
And do you know of many other people who have kind of brought those two, I guess, what do you even call it? It's almost like these two healing methodologies that have been brought together. They seem to me to go hand in hand, like the way that you talk about it. It seems like plant medicine, you know, and this kind of a more holistic style of Chinese medicine go hand in hand. But I haven't met anyone else who does both. So I'm interested to know like what it's like. You know, first of all, do you know other people doing it, and like how far spread is it?
So far, I still haven't met any other person who combine these two modalities together. But I first found out that acupuncture or herbal medicine has its spiritual healing side in an accident. In the textbooks, we only study about the physical healing or a little bit of emotional healing or mental healing. But I never learned about spiritual healing on textbooks. But one time when I put needles on a patient and he passed out, I was not worried because I've seen other people pass out, but he's not dying. I check his pulse, is still breathing, but I immediately remove all the needles and woke him up. And he told me that just that few needles, it brought him back to, because he was also a traveler, it brought him back to where his family was, and he was having a dinner with his family. And it was just like in 2 minutes time. And I was really shocked by that accident, that, wow, actually needles can also bring back memories or bring his spirit, people's spirit to another dimension. So I gained more respect to Chinese medicine. And now I'm combining these two modality together because I know plant medicine is more healing the spiritual side. And I developed protocol of people who come with depression or OCD or PTSD, and I combine plant medicine healing and acupuncture and herbal medicine for them to benefit from both sides. Because I know the plant medicine is not a quick fix as well. It brings the person to a higher dimensions or higher conscious state to learn something and to heal some of these spiritual blockage. But after a certain period of time, he or she came back to this reality. And how can he implement all these knowledge that he got from the spirit world into this modality and keep on healing his soul? And then that's the time for natural medicine or Chinese medicine to take place and to continue the healing process.
So you were saying before that you think that there is a pairing of Western medicine with Chinese medicine, and you can kind of have the Western medicine, surgeries, etc., but then you can have the Chinese medicine to recover. But also that kind of parity also exists with psychedelics and plant medicines, and then you can use the Chinese medicine as well to kind of continue to heal.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I guess that's a good point then to start getting into the plant medicine stuff. So you mentioned that your first experience was an ayahuasca experience. I think you said it was 2016. So I guess what were your thoughts, first of all, before going into that? Like, what were your preconceptions, and then what was that experience like?
Well, I came in the ceremony without expecting anything. I just opened up myself to receive whatever message the medicine gave me. At that point of my life, I was still a nomad, and I didn't have a place to call home. And I'm just connecting with people around the world and see what we can do together, but it was not concrete. And I still carry some of my family traumas that I have been escaping for years. And that was also one of my reasons to leave Hong Kong. And during those 4 ceremonies, I remember I connect a lot of these random things. I was seeing spirits during the ceremonies, some kids was like singing in the corner of my eyes. And I saw a cat like doing something, and that's not an actual thing. It was like in the spirit world. And I realized that I was opening up my senses, and it's not just in this dimension. I was connecting with the spirits in other dimensions that come to my being and connecting with my soul to give me some message. And I did record myself after each ceremonies to talk about what I've seen and what I've learned in that ceremony. And sometimes I will still rewatch them to see how much I grow from that process, to see if I'm implementing all these knowledge that I've learned.
I think you said to me before that it is also possible to enter these states without any plant medicine, right? Like you can enter them through meditation, through other means.
Yeah.
I think some people look down on plant medicine as a way to get there. Because some people say, oh, well, like do it naturally or whatever, just like medicine, I've never agreed with that, because I just kind of think, well, like the experience might be the same, but what's the problem with using the plant medicine? I mean, they seem to operate with the human body like in this way that why would we reject that? I mean, I think that any kind of substance or any plant that you can have that interacts with your own consciousness in such a way to produce these like amazing kind of spiritual experiences, I don't know why you would kind of like reject that or say, oh well, it's not natural. For me, that's completely natural. It's more natural than anything. It's just like anything that kind of interacts with your own biology. It's a natural thing.
Because I see the ways that our ancestors in the Americans, in South America or North America, they're using it for years as a way to heal some of these spiritual problems in the past. And they found these kind of herbs hundreds of or thousands years ago that they have these property of bringing our consciousness to another level. So I see them as a natural way, but I also see that they don't liberate us. They are a tool to upgrade or elevate our consciousness to a higher level. But after that, ceremonies will come back. After the medicine, our consciousness will already like improve a little bit. So we come back not as the same level as before the ceremony. No matter what you have learned, I can ensure that our conscious level will be already a little higher than before. But how can we maintain our growth or keep our conscious level high in the same level as we are in plant medicine? I believe that it takes other spiritual practices like meditation, like yoga, like self-reflection or journaling, all these kind of practices that can bring us gradually our soul to reach that level without the plant medicine. So plant medicine is a tool to make people see it's possible to feel like that, or to think like that, or to connect with the universe like that, without all these social conditioning of we are crazy, or why we are thinking like that, or why we are acting like that. But to a certain extent, that we are slowly building up our consciousness to reach that level by this spiritual practice.
Interesting that you put journaling in there. I can understand like medicine being in that same category, but journaling, I wouldn't have necessarily put it there. What is it about journaling that helps us to connect with that?
It's a reflection. and we put all our thoughts, all our learnings into paper, into words. And that's really important because every day we have hundreds or thousands of thoughts, and we kind of let them come and go for a few minutes. But a lot of these thoughts are actually messages from the spirit world or instincts that we think, oh, it's possible to feel like that, or I can actually react like that. But all these thoughts, if we kind of let them just come and go, then it's not a learning process to see how much we can expand, how much we can grow. So I believe writing them down in papers, it's a way for us to see how much we can grow.
Oh, that's interesting. So do you carry around like a pen and paper and you write down all the time?
Yeah, or just simply recording myself in a video.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, going back to the plant medicine stuff, we've done the ayahuasca ceremony, and obviously been like a profound ceremony. But by the way, just on that note, when I recently had my ayahuasca ceremony, I think I was telling you about it before. Like, I didn't see anything. Like, I didn't have any kind of visuals. Is it expected that you do have visuals, or is it just some people do, some people don't? Or is it based on ceremony? Because it seemed like during my ceremony, I don't know if anyone had visuals during it. Everyone seemed to have a kind of a similar experience. Like, and it was still, there was a lot of depth to it, but there wasn't visuals. So, but yours is obviously like, I don't know, very, very profound. Like, since you actually saw spirits and stuff. So what's that about? Like, why do some people seem to have it and some people don't?
So ayahuasca in particular is the brew of two things: ayahuasca vine and chacruna leaves. And according to the ratio of these two plants, it makes the brew different each time that we use. So the DMT was the one in chacruna leaves that gave us visual, and the ayahuasca vine are the inhibitors in our gut.
Okay.
But it also brings us a spiritual experience of connecting to our ancestor or connecting to whatever spirits, but it's not particularly seeing visuals. So it's really depend on the ratio of the brew that the person prepare that. So now I'm not using ayahuasca because I believe the plants needs to be local in order to have the biggest effect or the most beneficial effect. So now in Mexico, I'm using tebescoite, which is also a plant with DMT, and I mix it with Syrian rue seeds, which is the inhibitor, and I cook my own medicine every time before I perform the ceremony, because I believe that by preparing the medicine, I also put in the healing energy. I was chanting, I was playing songs during the process of cooking, and that's also a criteria, a spiritual part of the medicine, of preparing the medicine, leads to different outcome for the ceremony.
Right. Okay. So I feel like we've missed a gap here, because we've gone from you making the medicine and like straight from having this first ayahuasca experience. So after that first experience, what was that like? Were you immediately like, okay, plant medicine is something that I want to do and I want to make a big part of my life? Or did it take a few more kind of touches until that happened? Like, what were your thoughts coming out of it?
Well, after 2016, I remember the medicine really taught me to be grounded. Ayahuasca is a plant that is more grounding. That's why from 2017 to 2019, I was actually having a home in Malta, in Europe. And I believe that is one of the lessons from the ceremonies that, now it's time for me to be grounded. And I was worried about all the things, that how can I make a living? How can I create a community? Or how can I connect with people? But all these things were solved by the medicine. It just flow. I trust the medicine will just make everything happen on its own. And it worked out perfectly. From 2017 to 2019, I was living really happily in Malta and doing my works, especially in yoga. I was not giving any plant medicine at that moment. I was not called to that. But I was doing some self ceremonies of mushrooms. So at that period of time, I was growing my own mushrooms and taking them from time to time to expand myself, and especially to heal my inner child. Because I believe these different medicines have different qualities. Some ayahuasca and tibescuite, they are the feminine side. They are the abuelas, the grandmother medicine. So they are healing the feminine lineage, or helping us to let go, helping us to just go with the flow. And then the mushrooms are, in Mexico, it's called Niños Santos. So it's the sacred child. And I use that to heal a lot of my childhood traumas or wounds, and to make my inner child more happy and more enjoy whatever comes to my life. And then another two medicine, the cactuses, Peyote or San Pedro's, they are the grandfather medicine to help us to create boundaries, to create a goal. And then another medicine that I'm using, Bufo, right now, is the one above duality and connect us with the universe, connecting us with our past lives or our ancestors. So different medicine have different qualities, and you will need to consult with the practitioner or facilitator to see which one is the one that you need, because you cannot just randomly take one. You will experience a bad trip. Or I tried a few times peyote and it really gave me a bad trip. And it can be because the facilitator was not careful enough, but it also can be that I don't need the medicine right now. I don't need this grandfather energy at this moment. It might come in a few years' time, but now I'm not doing peyote or San Pedro at all, because it just doesn't resonate with my soul calling.
Okay. Can you talk to us about that bad trip? Because people kind of interpret these differently. I mean, I've had a bad trip of my own, and at the time, in that moment, I was like, this is just a trip. It was bad. It was awful. It was a bad experience. I shouldn't have had it. And I kind of closed the door for a little while. But actually, I realized in retrospect, when thinking back on it now, I actually think that was probably the most important trip I've had in my life. I know that other people have said the same thing, who have had these bad trip experiences, that no trip is a bad trip. A bad trip might just be a very powerful trip that takes you a while to fully process. So interested to know your thoughts about that.
Well, I use the term bad trip because it's just like the trips that is not comfortable and it's not what you expected, or you didn't get the lessons at that moment. So peyote gave me a lot of confusions, and I didn't know what is real and what is not real. And for me, it's giving me a tons of questions rather than giving me the answer. And I'm still processing them, yes. And I was, even during the peyote ceremony, I was seeing spirits. I was seeing everybody become monkeys, and I was like, are they real? I was like, all the peoples become monkeys. So I didn't know what was going on. In my mind, it's kind of like confused. But also, it also now reminds me that the facilitators matters, and the places matter too. Because all the peyote ceremony, I did it in the jungle. And peyote is not in the jungle, it's in the desert. That's why it's kind of like confused me. the medicine is not from that place. And that's why all these free trips of peyote, I was not getting what the spirit wanted me to get, what my spirit was expected. But if I'm going to do the peyote again, I would definitely go to the desert and do it, because it will help. It will definitely connect with the spirit of that land, and I think it's really important.
Right. Okay. That was really interesting what you were just saying there about not knowing what was real. That was probably the biggest thing that I would say for my trip as well that defined it for this, quote unquote bad trip. I actually thought that I had maybe died and was re-experiencing not even a past life, but maybe a memory. But I felt like this wasn't really me. I wasn't here in this world, and that this experience I was going through, and I had this real impending feeling that something really bad was going to happen very imminently, that maybe I died in this moment and I was having flashback to my own death. But I certainly did not think this was real life. I thought the place that my consciousness was the real place.
Yeah.
And I was having some kind of a physical body experience here. And maybe that is the truth. Maybe that actually is the truth, but it didn't feel like the truth was being told to me in a very kind way. It felt like the truth was being kind of like slapped across my face, maybe. So yeah, interesting to hear that you had a similar experience there with peyote. So you haven't done it since, you just have one experience and then...
I have 3 experience.
Oh, okay. So every time it was similarly. Oh, interesting. Okay. So tell me about the time that you were in the Amazon, and you spent a while there, right?
Yeah,
like learning
a few months. Yeah.
A few months. So you were learning the songs, you were learning to presumably like actually grow the ayahuasca or cultivate the ayahuasca, and then to take part in these ceremonies and stuff. And presumably you were also doing the ceremonies very regularly, like every day or every night or whatever.
Every night.
Yes. Start from your decision to go there. I don't even know how that looks like. Like, how did you even find yourself in the Amazon? And then what was that time like?
So during the pandemic, I was in Brazil, and after traveling along the coast of Brazil, I still have a few months and I don't know where to go. And I suddenly remember that, I have a friend in Spain that he told me that he was in the Amazon jungle learning with this lady who is like 80 years old about ayahuasca. And I contacted my friend in Spain, and he gave me the information of this lady. But he said this lady is living in like really inside the jungle, so it's quite hard to find her. Well, before I took the boat, like a big boat, along the Amazon River, I contacted his son to kind of pick me up somewhere. And in the boat, somebody stole my phone.
Stole your phone?
Yeah. So I was having no phone and no numbers, no contact. So I just talked to the medicine. Okay, now I'm going to find this master. And I believe that if we are meant to connect, we'll connect anyway. So I'm just keeping my trust and keeping my peace, calm during this boat trip. It's still like, it took around a week to go from Manaus all the way to where she lives, along the river. So we didn't go out from the boat. We're living in the boat for like the whole week. And once I arrived, I just went to cross the border to the Colombian side and then ask people if they know this lady or not. And they do, because she is quite a famous healer in that area. So the motorbike driver just drove me to the village and dropped me right outside her house. And when I knocked the door, she actually didn't know that I'm coming. So she didn't prepare any rooms or anything for me. And I asked if, my friend Aito recommend me to meet you and to learn about the medicine. And she was very happy because during the pandemic, nobody visited her. So for that few months, I was living with her in her house. sleeping on the hammock the whole few months, and we're doing the ceremonies every night. Sometimes I go with her or with her son to the jungle to harvest the medicine. And they told me that nowadays, because the demand of ayahuasca is so high, it's very difficult to find ayahuasca. They're growing chacruna in their garden, but they need the inhibitor, which is the ayahuasca vine, which is very hard to find now in the jungle because everybody's cutting them. But her son knows exactly where we can find, so we find them all the time. And every time we bring back a bunch of ayahuasca vine, and then mixing with chacruna, we're cooking them for the whole day. It takes more than 10 hours to cook the brew. And I was watching the fire the whole time, and sometimes we're singing, sometimes we pray to the medicine in order to heal the people who is going to take it. So after that, during the night, we drink the medicine. Sometimes it's just me and her son, and sometimes there are people coming, her clients coming. She's a healer in that village. So she will have clients coming in and try the medicine. And I learned a lot from her, how to sing the songs, how to conduct the ceremonies, how to pray, and to take care of people who are not feeling well. During the ceremony, a lot of people puke, some go to diarrhea or some, but not crazy, because we are taking it every night. The dosage is not a full trip dosage. So every ceremony lasts around 3-4 hours, and then we'll go to bed. But the whole few months that I lived with her, I felt like I was not living in the jungle. I was living in another dimension, and everything just flow and happens. And I'm truly grateful for that time to connect with her and connect with the spirit world. And it really opens up my healing modality to access to other parts of me, which I was already doing it in my past life. And then now I just need to relearn or remember, and it just flowed. So after that period, they do more initiation ceremonies, and I was able to conduct the ceremony by myself.
I just want to take a quick break here to remind you about supporting the podcast on the Fountain app. If you haven't heard of Fountain before, Fountain is an awesome podcast app which you can get on both iOS and Android. You can get all episodes of the Staying Free podcast on the Fountain app. And this is also a place where you can say thanks by giving some stats with a comment. So this is called a boost on the Fountain app, and this is all part of the value for value concept. So if you're getting value from this podcast, send me a boost there with a comment and I will read it on the next show. It's super easy to get started on Fountain. Just download the app and you can top up your Fountain wallet either by sending Bitcoin on the Lightning Network or even just by using a bank card. And it's also worth mentioning you can also earn sats by listening to Fountain and being an active member of the community. So if you want to find out more, you can go to fountain.fm, but otherwise just go into the App Store, download the app now, and start using Fountain and getting involved with the Value for Value community. Any way that you guys can support me is hugely appreciated, but I'm especially trying to push Fountain right now because I definitely see Value for Value as the future of podcasting and one of the best ways to support content creators. All right, let's get back to the episode.
So you mentioned that during that time you were connecting with past lives, or you were connecting with something and you were on another dimension. And I think you said something about there was something in your past life that you were connecting with what you were supposed to do here, in a sense.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me more about that? Because, I'm really interested in this. I'm really interested in how ayahuasca especially can help people to actually be guided towards their purpose in some sense. I know that with my ayahuasca experience, although I didn't have the visual side of it, I certainly had a huge amount of clarity coming out of it on what I needed to do to kind of move my life forward to the next level. I realized what was holding me back. I realized I had these roadblocks, and obviously you're supposed to go in there with an intention, and I went in there with an intention. And when I came out, it wasn't so much that I felt like I even necessarily was this is exactly how I need to do it. It was more just that I felt like I had a new confidence to actually do it. It was I knew really what I needed to do, but all of a sudden through the plant medicine, it helped me to connect with the confidence to do that. And with what you were saying there, spending this time in the jungle, it sounded like you were having a huge connection with something to do with your past life. So I'm interested to know, first of all, like if you can kind of like paint that picture of how that operates, but also like the whole past life just thing as a general concept. Is there some lineage of our lives that we are supposed to be following and that people kind of like become shaken off their path? Like, I just want to know your general thoughts about that idea as well.
Well, I believe in our human brain, we are just using like 10 to 15% of our brain capacity. And I believe plant medicine or secret medicine actually make our energy flow to other 80% of our brain to remember things that we are actually was. And it did help me to connect with some of these memories that I was reliving it and seeing myself as a Aztec healer, seeing myself as a fish, seeing myself as an eagle, seeing myself as a warrior in the wall. So different things. I was seeing those pictures during the ceremony, and you can literally tell if I'm just imagining a picture or I can really feel that that was me. There's really big difference. If I'm just creating pictures, I don't have that emotions. But when I'm knowing that, oh, that warriors was me, and I immediately connect with all these emotions that I was having, I was living that life. So it happens many, many times during ceremonies when I was seeing or closing my eyes and seeing those pictures, and I feel like, wow, that was actually me in one of my lives, and I was experiencing that. And I reconnect with that life and learn the lessons or retrieve all this information from him or her, and I bring them all back to this life, and it starts to unfold itself. I can say that a lot of things just come natural because I was doing it before. And like I said, I was a healer. So I did retrieve a lot of information on a lot of ways to heal people, connecting with those past lives. And I also had a few ceremonies that I was connecting with aliens. I cannot see his face, but he was just like something here, like a smoke or some spirit. And I feel the connection with that thing. And he was teaching me some modalities of healing that I can implement, I can do it. A very distinct example was I connect with that aliens, and she taught me that I can just heal by intentions. I don't actually need to do anything. But when right before I put my hands on my patient, but my intention is the most important, that I want that healing to take place. So those things I learned from these spirits and past lives.
Do you have any concept of how many past lives there are, or how many past lives there were, or is it just like
everybody's different? I really don't know how many lives I have lived, but more than 50s.
I wonder whether one day you'll have a plant medicine ceremony in another life and you'll remember this life.
Yeah.
Or maybe you already have, like I sometimes wonder, especially when I'm having psychedelic experiences, I question the chronology of time a lot. Like, we think about these things as being past lives, but maybe they're future lives. Maybe this is a past life, and in another ceremony, you've perhaps already had this lesson once,
Yeah, because time is just illusions for me. It's created by people. In the spirit world, there's no time, there's no space. and everything can happen in the same time. So when I was in those moments or in those dimensions, I could easily access to those part of me that was me, or that will be me. So as you said, yeah, some of those can be my future lives too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously you have this this kind of experience, this ayahuasca experience, and then you came to the end of it. You were capable of actually like administering the plant medicine and stuff. I know that you've kind of gone on a journey since then as well, like into even more things, including like I don't know how you would even term it, the kind of Sundance and the moon dance stuff that you were talking about. I mean, I find that stuff like just on an absolute another level. And I know you've just done, is it the moon dance you went to? That was one where you were just helping out, right? You were supporting.
Yeah.
But for the sake of the listeners who might never have heard this stuff before, and I'd never heard of it before I talked to you the other day, tell us about the sun and moon dances and how that kind of relates to all this.
So in Native Americans, we call these all these practices the red path, Camino Rojo, and it includes the medicine, includes Temazcal, Sundance, Moon Dance, and Vision Quest, and more other things too. So all are under big branch of Camino Rojo, the red path, and it's a path of kind of enlightenment or upgrading ourselves to see more things, with more clarity. So the Sundance and Moon Dance, I participate in the Sundance last year, and I'm going to do it by the end of this month as well. Again, it's a Native American ceremony from the Lakota tribe. And they have been doing that ceremony for hundreds or thousands of years, gathering a group of Sundancer in the wild. And we are experiencing 4 days, 4 nights, no eating and no drinking. So it's a dry fasting process. We need to commit to that. During that 4 days, we're dancing from the sunrise until the sundown, with a lot of songs, with a lot of dance movements, moving around the circles. And it was the most profound experience, even more than any medicine trips for me, because I was opening myself to connect with the spirits there. There was a lot of ancestral spirit. They have been dancing in that land for so many years. So I was connecting with those spirits. And I remember the first 2 days, I couldn't stop crying. I was just inside the circle. I was just keep crying. And a lot of things just came out. I do know that those are not my sadness. Those are other people's or other spirit sadness, but they were using my body in order to release that. And I was allowing them to do that because I know they're not harming me. They were just using my body to do whatever they need to release. And I was into the ceremonies, dancing. Since we're not eating and we're not drinking, our body feel more lighter and lighter day by day. And I connect a lot with the wind spirits, which is my name, because it was really hot under the sun and keep dancing for the whole day. When the wind comes, it gave me a little bit of comfort. But when the wind's not coming, we were just like, oh my God, dehydrating and very, very tired.
Oh, you're dying. I mean, after 4 days, I mean, it sounds to me like you're pretty, you've definitely started the process of dying. If you don't drink for more days, I mean.
It's a kind of like a near-death experience also. But all the warriors were their spirit was so strong, so nobody fainted. As much as I remember, nobody collapsed. We were just encouraging each other. When somebody was feeling tired or feeling sleepy, we just encouraged them to keep dancing. I remember by the end of the ceremony, my body was so exhausted, but my spirit was really, really in bliss. I was really tired, but I was in a trance. So I was just keep dancing. But I forgot about this body. I was in another world. So it brought my spirit into a trance by the method of exhaustion. And that's one of the main purpose of the whole ritual. And we are praying the whole time by our movements, by our songs, by our prayers. We believe that we are dedicating all these prayers to the world so that the people that we remember will get our prayers. Yeah. Get our blessings.
And during that time, do you also have any kind of a visual experience?
There are quite some magical things happen. So before we start dancing, we went to a temazcal. And also after dancing for the whole day, we went to another temazcal as well. So temazcal is the sweat lodge that we sweat inside with prayers, with singing, but in a womb, like a round-shaped dome, which is totally dark inside. And I remember around third or fourth day, when I went inside the temazcal, I went because we could only walk clockwise. So I was one of the first to go inside, and I sat quite next to the door. And then other Sundancer came in. It was around like 60, 70 people came in the same temazcal, and we were sitting very close to each other, so there were no room to move. And once everybody get in, they closed the door, so total darkness inside. We cannot see anything, and then they start singing, drumming and singing. So I joined them singing and drumming. After 4 songs, we only do one door because of there's so many people. After 4 songs, when they opened the door, I saw the door in front of me, and I was sitting opposite to the window, to the door. And I didn't remember I stand up and walk there. I was already feeling some kind of disoriented in that moment, that I didn't know if my body moved or the whole temazcal moved. So I went outside and talked to the people there, telling them that I experienced these things. I was not sitting there, but then when they opened the door, I was sitting in in another position. They explained me that that's telepathy, that the spirit was moving me without me noticing. And I said, wow, okay, so that's possible. And then when I came back, I did some research, and I really believed that it was possible, that our ancestors in the Atlantis, in the Numerians, they were able to do that. But due to these social conditionings since the Egyptians and the Romans and all these conditionings, making us to feel that that's impossible. We are crazy to think like that. And I believe when we are really in touch with the spirits and ourselves become really light, we will be able to reconnect with all these knowledge from our ancestors, like telepathy or like remote viewing or astral travels. They're all possible. I believe that they are all able to be trained to do that. But we need to be really detached from this world. So food is one of them, and water, and then all these relationships, attachments, and material things. When we can slowly detach from all these, we gain the freedom of moving around like spirits. And that's a really big realization after the Sundance for me, that I realized that this is bringing me heavy to this world. And so now I'm practicing fasting once, because I'm going to do the Sundance in 3 weeks again. So now I'm practicing fasting at least once a week, dry fasting, no food, no water, to prepare myself for the ceremony again. Yeah.
So I'm really interested in some stuff that you just said there about the idea that you cannot, that some of these things are possible. And especially you mentioned like Atlantis and Sumerians and stuff. I didn't know too much about that until this year. I started doing a little bit of research onto this kind of whole like ancient civilization stuff. And it got me thinking exactly like you said, that maybe we've just been like kind of moved away from our spiritual center through so much like, I don't even know what you call it, like not necessarily just propaganda, but also just kind of societal expectations and whatever it is that people now are just living like completely different. I really sense this is true because when people, you kind of look at the world today and like so many people, they're like really, really depressed and they're tense and they have like a lot of like health issues and things and all these things exist. And I think that a lot of that is just to do with being out of alignment with your spiritual core, basically. Now I have like absolutely no proof of that, but I sense that there's some truth there.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to know what you think, like first of all, what you think about that. And also like, what is it that's changed throughout all of these generations since our ancestors that have made us so kind of like spiritually like closed up?
Labels or identities that the society gave us or we gave ourselves. Nationalities. I believe there's no nationality. Like in the Atlantis time, everybody is Atlantis. There's no nationalities. So all these things is just an example. All these things bring us close to the earth, ground ourselves, that we belong to here, or we belong to this community or that community. And even just that small labels, I believe that create a great impact on our mind, that we believe that we belong to this earth. But actually we are just free roaming souls that we can just go everywhere we want.
Yeah, because I know when we talked last, you said like, you know, that you're all about freedom and stuff. And I think that we both agree that like freedom and spirituality, they're very like connected. And that's kind of why I think like I like having conversations like this, because I think that if you don't connect with your spirituality in any way, I think you're just like so much easier to fall for whatever the psyop is. It's like you just get pulled into that thing because you just believe it all and you don't like recognize like who you really are. And I think that going on that journey of being like, okay, who am I and what am I is like super important. And I think that like plant medicine is just have a huge part to play in that, because they kind of connect you with something that's like, okay, like this world that you think you're living in, that's, you know, like very organized and ordinary, actually like all that kind of like comfort blanket could just be pulled from under you, and it could be like, okay, this is actually what it's like. You know, you've got all these like past lives, you know, you can connect with aliens, you can, you know, like there's all of this like amazing things, which is kind of like scary and daunting for some people. But I find to be, if you really like go into it like honestly and with truth and look at it, I don't know, you can be humbled by it, but that process can be amazing. I mean, I had an experience, it was actually like doing LSD. I had an experience where I'd gone into this museum. This guy had like a museum place where I was doing it. It was just a kind of like hobbyist museum. So he just had a bunch of like random stuff. He had like motorbikes and generally like machinery, like either machines or like vehicles and things like that. They were from ages ago, you know, from like hundreds of years ago. And he had like an iron in there. It was like a, you know, an iron that you do your clothes with. And I looked at that iron and I could see the kind of like shimmers of, I guess like, you know, the shimmers of light or whatever, just coming off the bits of rust on this iron because it was so old. And I kept looking at the iron. It just looked really, really interesting to me. And I kept looking. And over time, everything kind of faded out and went to black, except for the little like shimmers from the rust. And all of a sudden, I was basically like viewing the entire galaxy from another location. It was just like I was looking at everything. I could see just all the stars, and it was like a telescope had been flung into space. Yeah. And even though I kind of knew I wasn't there, I also kind of sensed that this is what we are. Like we come in from like the stardust, and you can actually reconnect with that, you know, and you can have these profound experiences that reconnect you with something which is incredibly empowering. I think if you know about what you are, you know who you are, you know, like your true nature, this life, it becomes in a way less significant. You just think, okay, well, what does it matter? You know, like people who just say, okay, well, I'm just going to go and like work all my life and earn as much money as possible, but I'm not really happy. And I'm, kind of like settling with the wrong person. Maybe they've made all these decisions in their life to just try and get through it.
Mm.
I think that goes away when you truly connect with like plant medicine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just interested to know also what you think about that idea, that the idea that freedom, you can have so much freedom in this physical world by fighting for it. I'm all about that. If you want to fight against the latest thing or great, whatever it is that's tyrannizing you, you have to be connected with the present. But I also think that taking that a level up is coming to that spiritual, like awakening. That is actually probably the most free experience you can have.
I believe freedom doesn't need to be fight. If we fight for freedom, that's some freedom given by an authority. I fight for freedom for LGBT community because I'm begging the government is going to free us. But the really real, authentic freedom comes from our mind. We don't need to fight for that. We just need to shift our mindset into freeing ourselves. And like the Buddhist meditation, I practice Vipassana meditation, I practice Zen meditation. And they taught me a lot about shifting the mind to free myself. I don't need to engage in all these society of what they think about me or what they will give me freedom, because I don't need to count on them for that freedom. I can create by myself. And yes, plant medicine is a way to make me access to that freedom. But the meditation technique is also very important for me to realize or keep reminding myself that I can free myself by just changing my mindset, that I feel like I don't need to belong here. Or I can, because I still need to take care of this body. But I tell people that half of my time I'm living in other dimensions and I'm taking care of other things, not just this body. Because I know that this is not the only reality. But a lot of people put too much focus, too much attention to this reality, and they forgot about 99% of who they are. And that's why they keep coming back, because they think that this is important, that creating financial wealth is important, or creating relationships are important. But I learned from plant medicine and from meditation that when I'm connecting with the source, I don't need to worry about all these things. It will just happen naturally, and I'm just going with the flow, with the path that I'm supposed to be, to keep realizing who I am. And I'm doing my path, my part, also to awake more people that come across my path, and that's what I'm doing. And I can now distinguish what are the heavy energy that brings me down and what I can do to counteract them. That liberates me.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's almost like through these practices, you actually become more aware of those things that do and don't make you more free anyway. Because it's like you said, you could become more in touch with that energy. Because I agree, like there's so many things that I think that people, they just take for granted. But actually, like when you open your mind, you realize that some things are inherent within your life. You're like, oh wow, this thing is weighing me down or whatever. So it's like, if you want to become free, connecting with that spirituality and actually, it's super cool. I know I need to do it. You have to do it more and actually become in touch with that energy. Do you think that the world is swinging back into this kind of direction of becoming more in touch with stuff like holistic medicine? Or do you think we're going the other way? Because it almost feels like for me, this is my belief, and I'm interested to know whether you agree or not, is that like during those COVID years, like 2020, 2021, that was like peak disconnection, like peak disconnection with, I guess like peak disconnection with spirit in some way. And that since then, we've kind of bounced off a wall in a sense. Like a lot of people kind of saw that and just said, okay, like this is just not a world I want to live in, this world of, everyone just kind of having to, treating each other like they're walking biological diseases and, like wearing masks everywhere and kind of like covering the face and just becoming so in that fear mentality. And I think that we've hit a wall and then we've started to kind of move back. And the next few years, I think it's almost like a slingshot. It's been pulled back and we're going to have like a catapulting towards things like plant medicine and towards things like holistic health, etc. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, definitely. I see that in the last few years, it was like a challenge for humanity to shake off our fear. And I do see quite a number of people, more and more people awakened from that experience, even though in that period they were experiencing that fear. But when they see how the media manipulate us, how the government is treating their people, then they start to wake up. And I believe they must go through those speed bumps in order to see that, to see, oh, that's not the truth. That's actually bringing more dark side of humanity than what we are evolving into. So I believe that humanity is moving towards a more awakening and more conscious level, that more people start to wake up.
Yeah, it seems to me like I expect that to happen more and more. And I think it's a good thing. I think that we had to get there somehow. And I agree that sometimes you just have to go through, if anything, I would say like in every case, you have to go through hard times in order to have these experiences. And it's almost like you could see plant medicine almost being like a microcosm of this, because it's like, sometimes if you're on these experiences, like for instance, with the sun and moon dancing, it's like you are putting yourself to the brink of death. You're putting yourself through exhaustion. You're putting yourself through extreme suffering. And through that, you get to a point of saying, I've suffered so much that I've transcended the suffering.
Yeah.
I've suffered so much that now I'm free. Now my spirit's free.
Yeah.
And I actually think that happens as well at a kind of societal level. It's like we need to suffer, because when we get too comfortable, if everything is going right and we have everything given to us and everything's easy, you just kind of like descend into a state of tyranny in some sense. You don't even realize it's happening. It's slow wearing away. But then eventually you're like, oh, I'm in a cage, and then you kind of come back from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's next for you? The Sundance is the next thing for like coming next week. How many times have you done it now?
Next month will be my second time. So once you go one time, you are actually dedicated to for at least 4 years or multiples of 4, because in the tradition of Native Americans, they honor the 4 directions, the 4 races, the 4 winds, the 4 gods in the 4 directions. So we kind of are better to go in the number of 4. So now I'm dedicated to go for the next 3 years to accomplish that 4. And if I want to do it again after that 4 years, I need to do 4 more years.
Are you nervous?
Last year when I went there, I was not prepared. I didn't know what's going to happen. And I just keep crying and releasing and let the spirit connect with whatever comes to me. But this time I'm going more prepared, because I know what's going to happen. What I would do better than last year is I'll create some boundaries for these spirits to come into my body. Because last year, even after I returned home, I couldn't stop crying for like a week. And my brother saw me, was just sitting in the living room crying. I said, I just cannot control. That sadness is still here. So what I would do better is creating boundaries for this period and just talk to them and say that, yes, you can use my body for some period of time, but not that long, because I need to work. I need to come back to this life, and I can pray for you guys to liberate your sadness, your emotions. But I need to create boundaries with them.
Yeah. I feel like as well, that process of crying when you have that, I think that's an important process for people to go through. I think that's another thing that's been lost that psychedelics can help me to access. I mean, like, I know that when I had my kind of first like serious psychedelic experience, I hadn't cried for like years before that. Like, it was like there was a blockage there. There was something that was not allowing that emotion to come out. And that psychedelic experience brought down this barrier inside of me. It kind of dissolved it.
Yeah.
And I was able to cry. And I was like, man, so much came out here. And also, like, with the ayahuasca, the purging is a big part of it. Like, when I was having that experience, I actually felt like what I was purging was some kind of locked up emotion that I'd like had stored in my body for a long time. It felt like it came seriously deep. It wasn't just like, I don't know whether I'm unique in a sense, or whether you agree, but like with ayahuasca, when you're purging, it's not like being sick, like, oh, I've had something bad to eat, or I've drunk too much, like I'm being sick. This is like coming from so deep in your core. You feel like something has gone out into your entire body, and then it's come back and packaged it up, and it's like it's been there for years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's negative energy that stores in your body for a long time that it come up. I had an experience administrating bufo to one of my clients, and I already know that he has great deep fear of dying. And I told him that you might experience this fear, but don't worry, I'm here to make sure that you don't pass out or whatever. Once he smoked the medicine, he started panicking, and he thought that I was going to kill him when I was sitting with him. And he told me, can I not do it and come back? And I said, once you have smoked it, it cannot be stopped, but after a while, you come back, don't worry. But he was still releasing that fear. But that was actually a really good moment for people to release any kind of stuck emotions. That before, because it's so intense in the first few minutes, it brings up so many things because it's a near-death experience, the 5-MeO DMT that is inside our brain. So people cry if they have a lot of regrets or guilt inside, or anger. I saw people super angry, yelling and screaming, or fear. So I allowed them to release those emotions that are stuck in their body in the first few minutes. And I'm just holding space for them to release. And after that period of time, they slowly come back, calming down, and then experience bliss. And they were able to connect with the universe, feeling everything is one, feeling I'm part of the tree, I'm part of this water. So that's a moment that you feel oneness with everything. And you can also connect with your past life at those moments.
So even releasing emotions like fear and things like that, actually, it's not a bad thing. It's just that emotion needed to come out too.
Yeah, absolutely. And plant medicine give you that tool to release that.
One more big question before I round things off, just because you've gone places, you've done things, you've gone places, and I always like asking deep questions to people who have done that. What do you think happens when we die? First of all, I guess, what do you think the process is of the actual process of dying itself as an experience in life? Do you think that, because I have a suspicion that the process of dying might be the most profound experience we ever have in our entire lives, is the actual process of dying, and that rather than us thinking of dying as being something that we should be afraid of or try to avoid, actually going into it and realizing, this is the most amazing experience ever, would be probably a good thing if people looked at it more like that. Obviously, if you hold that belief. And then second of all, where do you think it would go after we died? What's your just general meditations on death?
Well, I like to use the Buddhist concept in this question, that there's no death and there's no birth. We just transform. So from life to life, we're just transforming from one state into another state. It can be from a human body into another human body, or a human body into a tree, or an animal into a human body. So we just transform. And a lot of us decide, I believe, when we die, we have the choice to see if the next life we carry those memories into our next life. A lot of us decide not to.
to start ramming. And that's why we come back and we don't remember anything. So after we die, I believe we'll come back, all of us, if we are not enlightened. So we come back, keep coming back into this samsara with the worldly to improve ourselves, our soul, into a higher state of consciousness. And if it comes to one life that we become enlightened, then we come out from this wheel and we go living in that higher dimension forever. I also believe that this is not my last life. I still have work to do for myself, for other people. So I will come back. Possibly I will come back in another form, but to gain back those memories from the past, I believe the medicine could help to remember what we are. And then from those background of what we are, we can keep working on how to improve that, how to release those emotions. Because I believe a lot of people were warriors, were soldiers, because the world has been so many wars in the past, and we all killed people in the past. How can we release those painful memories? And I was also doing that because in some of my medicine trips, I was seeing myself, I have blood in my hands. I was killing these people. Death is actually in my hands. I can just kill these people. But how can I release those emotions and these memories into something better, into something that can bring me enlightenment at the end? So I need to keep working on myself to release that and to forgive myself, to have compassion, more compassion, develop more compassion towards other beings, towards the nature, towards the animals. And that can help me, help my soul to reverse all these things that I've done in the past. And I believe that's the purpose of why we are here, to experience this life and death. And if we can see that this is not a real thing, or this is just a process of transformation, we lost those fear. I could just die tomorrow. I don't know when I'm going to die, but I'm prepared for that. If I die tomorrow, fine. Then I will come back in another form, continue my awakened journey in another form. But I really do hope that my next life, I will remember what I've learned and then keep working on that.
That was awesome. Okay, do you have time for one more question? What do you think God is? What does God mean to you?
God, I believe everything is God. I believe there's a higher energetic feel of making everything happen the way it is. And that can be named God or the universe or the divine. But he gave his image into everybody. So even though this bigger energetic divine thing is called God, but everybody has a glimpse of, or has a small piece of God as well. So we are God itself, and we can create what we believe is for the evolution of the mankind, of the whole being, of the whole world. We have the power to manifest them. But something that is out of my control, I connect with the higher source, with the God, or with the universe. Then I have no power to do this. How can I do this? But I would ask help from this God. That's why we pray. And I learned from my medicine trip that I can just connect with them, and that gives me the power to manifest the way it should be, or it is.
and I don't need to do too much because it's out of my control. I don't need to fight for freedom or to do something against the government or whatever. But I just having my intention of what is good, what is good for this mankind. With that intention, I believe it's enough to change the world.
Right, okay. Thank you so much for this. It's been a great conversation. Thanks for inviting me in here to have it in person as well. I guess just before we shut things down, do you want to just let people know where they can find you if they've got, want to connect with you and ask you questions or whatever it is? And also, obviously, we're here in the clinic in Puerto Vallarta, so people are here. They can come, and you accept Bitcoin as well. So I know my listeners are Bitcoiners, so they'll be interested about that. But yeah, just let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I have my own clinic called Satisana Medicine in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So it's a holistic healing center for people to come for treatment or for ceremonies. And my Instagram is at travelbywind, TRAVELBYWIND. And you can connect me with there. And also I'm having that intention to create a online platform for people to share ideas or doing some healing on Zoom or whatever, but it's coming up soon. So I believe with that I can connect with more people from all over the world that have the same yearning to heal and to free themselves.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'll definitely put the links to those. If you have them now, I'll put the links, or if not, then let me know and I'll put the links when you got them. But yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.